Hello and welcome to the Valley Oak Paper YouTube channel. My name is Cecilia and these are the cards I'm going to make today. They are gratitude cards with deer in an autumnal landscape. This was for a challenge run by That Crafty Golden on Instagram. These cards feature 3 Honeybee Stamps products. Lovely Layers Deer creates 2 very realistic deer, a buck and a doe. Thankful Buzzword comes with 2 shadow layers, one big and one small. And the Farmhouse Field stencil set. It creates a beautiful landscape with trees and field. It could work in any season and it's super useful for placing critters and people in. Starting with the first background, I'm going to stencil it with a 6-piece stencil set. There's also a die set with the same scene. I used it for a birthday card with the Bear family recently. I'm stenciling with Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to speed up the blending now and put on some music. You can read the ink colors at the top left of the screen. And that's the first background done. I know it looked like a hot mess in the middle, but the final outcome was worth it. Now for the second background, I want it to be a mirror image of the first. So I clean off all my stencils, turn them over and repeat the same blending. Here are both of our stenciled backgrounds. Aren't they beautiful? I'd love to go for a walk in that scenery. The reason I wanted them to be mirror images is that the 2 deer created by the Lovely Layers deer die set face in different directions. To balance the composition, the trees also need to face in different directions. Let's put the backgrounds aside while I create the focal point, our deer. The lovely layers deer consist of many layers. Each body and the antlers are separate dies. All other dies combine parts for both deer. You can tell them apart because the larger pieces are typically for the male deer. I used craft cardstock for the bodies ×2, the antlers ×2, the heads and the faces. Dark brown cardstock for the hooves, the noses and the eyes, and cream cardstock for inside the ears, around the eyes, the snouts, and the necks and bellies. And here are all my die cuts. I start by gluing together the bodies and antlers for stability. On the bodies, I add ground espresso around the edges and in the shadows. I'd love for you to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. I post card making videos weekly on Sundays. I'm also planning some giveaways. You may want to enable notifications so you don't miss those. I add frayed burlap to the antlers. I inked the edges of the heads and faces with vintage photo. Now I can glue together all the ink blended parts. Turning to the cream die cuts, I ink blended with tattered rose on the neck and belly fur, as well as the snouts. Then I glued on the cream parts. The skinny strip is the male's belly fur. The other strip belongs to the doe. The larger eye surrounds belong in the back and the smaller ones on the doe. The same applies to the ear fur. Finally, I added the hooves, noses and eyes. I refer to the layered guide for which hooves go on which foot. My composition with the deer balancing the trees. Moving on to the sentiment, I die cut the smaller shadow die out of dark brown cardstock 3 times per card and stacked them 4 dimension. I did the same for the thankful die. Then I glued them together. I've selected a couple of stamps from Tim Holtz Tiny Text Stamp Set for sub-sentiments. I'm stamping them with coffee archival ink on cream cardstock using my Tim Holtz stamp platform. Here you can see that I use the rubber side of the lid. I'm cutting out the sub-sentiments with my Tim Holtz 8.5 inch trimmer. I've marked the A2 measurements with Sharpies. I've also added marks up to 7 inches. I'm using a scrap piece of colored cardstock to help me see exactly where the blade will fall. Here are my sub-sentiments. I think I'll go with these two. Next, I'm matting my stenciled backgrounds with dark brown cardstock. I cut down the backgrounds to 4 by 5.25. Then I cut dark brown cardstock 1/8 of an inch larger on both dimensions. That gives me a really thin, elegant frame. I'm also placing the deer on the backgrounds. I'm putting the buck on the right side stencil background and the doe on the background I stenciled in reverse. The sentiment goes on the bottom. I die cut 2 more shadow layers out of craft cardstock. I'm using half of this to compensate for the part that's glued over the deer's legs. Then I'm adding the sub-sentiment to each of the cards. And that finishes the cards for today. I hope you enjoyed them. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will show you some more still images at the end of the video. You can find links to everything I used in today's card in the description box below, as well as in my blog post on valleyoakpaper.com. Thanks for watching.